Hello, one and all, and welcome to Heroic Inspiration, a D&D and TTRPG show where I talk about stuff, just stuff about the games that we all enjoy. With me today is a man on a mission to eradicate all geometric shapes from everything. It is No Dice
hmm
D&D. It's Kevin again. Hello.
Hello. Hey, thanks for having me again, man. It's good to see you.
It's my pleasure. How are you?
I'm swell. I can't complain. I've been working a lot and working on my side projects. I have D&D on Friday, so I'm
Nice.
amped about doing that and starting to do some streams.
Very cool.
So I get to work with viewers to prep for my D&D. So my job is a little bit easier because I'm already a lazy DM. How could I
Just
make it a little
outsourcing
bit
it.
easier for myself? What about you, man? How you been?
Yeah, I'm good. I recently did a week where I ran 6 sessions in a week,
What?
which was too many.
Yeah, 6 sessions is far too many sessions.
Across 4 campaigns.
Were,
I
were they all unique? Like each one? Did you double up? Did you ever like this
No,
is I'm
so
gonna use this counter again.
we started a new campaign. I started a new campaign for two of my group
Uh-huh.
because we were in a call and they were talking about how they'd love to revisit these characters, and I was like, let's do it. And I put that together with 10 minutes notice.
Oh
Put
hell
the
yeah.
first session together. We did 2 sessions in that world, so that was 2 of the 6.
Uh-huh.
We did 2 session 0s for one longer term campaign, which is going to be pirate themed, which I'm psyched about.
Mm-hmm.
I ended my evil campaign, and the dice gifted me with all of the story beats I was hoping for,
Yeah.
which is always nice.
Yeah.
And I ran a dungeon crawl when I thought I was going to be playing with
Wow.
5 minutes notice or something.
Dude, but those I honestly think the ones where you don't have anything prepped, I think that would be actually way more fun. I've thought about literally going into sessions more and not like purposely not prepping at all and just seeing what happens because I think those are the most like free flowing and most fun as a DM. But maybe tell me if I'm
No,
wrong.
it's super cool. So I had like the dungeons because we play in Tailspire, which is
Okay.
which is a fully 3D like uh, virtual tabletop. Basically, it's
Oh,
really cool.
cool.
I like it because it makes the combat a lot crunchier.
hmm
Because you can measure specific distances, you can see AOE's, you can fly, you can climb. Like I much prefer combat like that in my
hmm
D&D,
Yeah.
both as a player and as a DM.
hmm
So we use that. So I had the maps and stuff built, but the story beats were the things that I was like improving as we were going. Basically, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll start here.
hmm
I'll see where they want to go. That was like the whole prep I had for one of them, and they immediately left the town that they were in, and I was like, no.
Oh,
I
devastating.
was hoping you'd just stay here and talk to each other for an hour.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, quick
Um,
topic episode.
and
um,
the dungeon is one I'd run before, so it's effectively a Dark Souls dungeon.
mm-hmm.
So they go through, they die. If they die, they come back to life at a room with coffins in it.
Oh,
And
that's
then if
cool.
they hit the next room with coffins in, the world saves the state of everything as it is when they hit that room.
Yeah,
And then
you're doing
next
a
time they
roguelike.
die, I'm fully doing a roguelike. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
it's
that's great.
it's really cool. I'm really
hmm
enjoying it. But it was prepped for 3 players, and I ended up running it for 5 players.
Oh, okay,
They
yeah,
steamrolled it, which is fine because
yeah.
they'd already died to that stuff once and come back, so I was expecting them to because they level up when they die.
hmm
Because I think that's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And also this time around, it was with the 24 rules instead of the 14 rules, and
Oh,
one
that,
of the players is a really good DM, which means he's just a min maxer, just
yeah.
full, cannot help himself. And he played a sorcerer, and he did chromatic orb, and it bounced twice, and he killed like the last 3 things round a corner using that,
Yeah.
which was great, like
Eh,
super super cool.
How do you like the new? Do you now seeing it? Does the 2024 feel much different? Do you like it?
I think players are like substantially more powerful,
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking. Like I
Yeah.
think nearly every class is that, except for Ranger. Sorry, Ranger.
Uh,
Um,
always. You got to keep the meme, dude. That's what,
so
that's
I
why they
prim.
did that.
Yeah, it just I don't know what Rangers did to whoever's designing them at Wizards, but like, come on, man.
Yeah.
the rule that I'm using to try and balance things is that rangers don't have to hold concentration on Hunter's Mark. It's just
Oh, sure.
concentration free.
Yeah.
Because it's not good enough to warrant using all the time, and they've baked it in as a core class feature.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you had a chance to try it out yet?
No, we have. I haven't touched it all because again, I'm in more long-term campaigns right now. So no. Yeah, it's just R1. We're staying. One guy made a new character. He stayed with the old, because everybody else isn't going to change, and he didn't want to shift it up. And
That makes sense.
honestly, I don't even think they're, my players aren't in tune with the D&D like space as much. So yeah, he's like, I'm not going to go look it up and do all that. He's like, I'm happy with what I got. I have the book and it was taken care of. We want to look at some point, but like, I don't know, man. We're happy with what we're doing now. But yeah, I think that's my worry is that it's just going to be power creep, which makes sense. And then it's harder to balance. And I like, again, I think last time we talked, I like the very low level stuff. So
yes.
But I think doing like a roguelite is definitely the way to do D&D combat and make it like a centerpiece, because D&D combat is not made to be like you're dead and the game's over and you lost that character. Like the combat's not balanced enough. You can't always like work your way through 100%. Things. Yeah. So the fact that you're just like, oh yeah, you die, you're back in the coffee room, go again. That feels good. And then it feels like combat's more of a fun experience and like almost video game-esque. I think that's a genius idea.
I'm really proud of it. Really proud of it. I probably stole it from someone. Thank you to whoever that was. That tweeted about it or whatever. And my brain was just like, we'll take that.
You're right.
But it's also a really cool way to like test power levels on like third-party spells that we're using through various books. Like I bought Book of Ebb and Tides and the Grim Hollow stuff, and they've got some incredibly cool spells. They've got some busted spells in those books.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Storm Portal allows you to teleport 120 feet. It deals like a 5-foot AoE damage when you leave and when you return. And you can repeat it every turn as a bonus action. And if you upcast it, you can bring other people with you. And if you're outside, it's 240 feet instead of 120. It is so busted. So very busted. But because I'm doing the like shorter campaigns, it's a good opportunity for, I think I've said this before, so out of the 5 of us in my main D&D group, 4 of us DM.
Right.
Semi-regularly for the group. We switch between different campaigns. I do a lot of the like, I tend to do the ones where it's like, someone can't make it today, and I'm like, my body is ready. Let's go.
Yeah. Hence the 10 minutes knowing before the 5 minutes.
Exactly. So it's a really good opportunity to test those spells and be like, that is dumb, and we need to change it, or we need to nerf it, or we need to like just not use it. Basically.
Yeah.
We always lean towards changing it or like nerfing it instead of just banning it outright, because sometimes it's cool, right? And like,
right.
You should be allowed to do cool things. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just how much of a power fantasy is it?
Yeah. It is funny that D&D is like that, because in a video game world, right, where you can just see the statistics of like, we had 1 million players do this thing and we know where like things are broken. D&D has no really way of accumulating data to see if something's actually broken or not. Like, I guess you could put it in a VTT and maybe that's what some of the things that they're doing. But like, yeah, you're like, especially with third-party stuff, it's like, I don't know, man. It seems like a cool idea. I don't know if this is broken or not. We'll find out. And then you get in the game, you're like, oh, everything died really fast thanks to this one teleport spell. But it's awesome.
It's fun to do, right? And even if it only lasts, even if you only get like 2 to 3 sessions with that stupidly overpowered spell, and then you fix it, everyone has different preferences. This all actually ties into the main theme quite well, so this is fine. Even if you only get the 2 to 3 sessions of that, it's still fun to be like, do you remember that time that the player was teleporting from the front of a ship to the back of a ship to move around between beating up a Rastalith and like a homebrewed deep fish monster thing I'd put on. And another player grew wings, flew up to the crow's nest. His arms turned back from wings into normal arms, shot and crit one of the creatures, and then flew back down again because of a Humblewood spell. And it's just like, this is all sick. I cannot balance in a combat encounter like this.
No chance. Well, that's the hard thing, right? Like, you go into this, and I think that's why I know people hate fudging rolls or like maybe giving things like a little bit more of a soft edge, but we can't play test some of the stuff that you make. I had so many things where I'm like, oh, this should be fine, and then they start getting stomped. I'm like, okay, well, this was supposed to be like the intro level to
Yep.
the dungeon, and they have a whole day's left of combat. Maybe this one, he's got like half the hit points
Yep.
than I thought he had. Because again, can't play test.
It's so important to do stuff like that, especially because sometimes you just like you pick a creature because it fits the theme, and you're like,
Oh
that's
yeah.
awesome, and you use the ability, and as you use it and you're reading it properly, and you're like, oh no. I used an Iceland. I think I homebrewed some of it, but it had this
Okay.
icy breath which blinded and slowed. And
Yeah.
you could save against the blind, but not the slow. And I was like, I have to change that. That is
Yeah.
not good. There were
Uh-huh.
points in that fight. So all 3 players very nearly died. They didn't. So I'm happy with how I on the fly balanced some of it.
Uh-huh.
But at one point, one of the players was frightened because the creature has frightened
Oh
presence.
no.
So frightened, blinded, restrained because he was grappled,
Yeah.
and slowed. I was just like, I promise I'm not trying. I'm trying to kill you a little bit, but not like a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I like my. I don't know how you feel. Actually, this is how do you? What's your ideal result from a combat? Like, how close to death should players be?
That's a great question. I
Characters.
think yeah. I think it depends on the story beats, right? Like
Mm.
where we are in the concept of like what is this interaction supposed to be, or like what is this encounter serving? And so I think like boss fights, I'm trying to balance it. Boss fights, I'm not really fudging rolls.
Mm.
Like you can die here. This is like a serious thing.
Yeah.
Like you've gotten to a big bad. Here's the hit. And so I am trying to make it close, and I don't know how exactly it's going to be. But like
Yeah.
everything up, I'm trying to make it so like if they fight some minions, I'm not trying to get them to get destroyed as long as they're not making dumb decisions. And I think that's like a huge balancing feature here is like if you do something dumb, you're
Yep.
going to get punished for
Yep.
it. But if you don't do anything dumb and it just so happens that like this burning hand spell decides to do like max damage to everybody, like, oh, you guys are just in a room and he just steps out of the door. It's like I'm going to fudge that number of
It
like
happens sometimes.
yeah, exactly. And you're like, well, I mean, that happened on one of the first sessions in this long campaign. And they were fighting a boss, right? And at level 1, you can
Level
go down
1's
really easy.
horrible to
Yeah,
balance
yeah.
for.
Which is exactly so I just like, oh, burning hand should be fine. Oh, here, it hit everybody. And everybody made their save. And I did the damage, and like we could all just died there. And I was like, wait, what? You mean oh no. Okay. And then I was like, okay, I guess maybe he only gets one use of that. That was his one time.
Pulling
So yeah,
him out of the fight and being like, don't do that again.
Yeah.
Back in the fight.
yeah. Picking up the mini. Yeah, dude. I think I'm trying to definitely make it so at least a couple people are going down if it's a serious fight. Other times it's just like a bar fight or like bandits get ambushed and they can just clean up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm usually not trying to kill my players because that's not the game we're playing. But again, if you make a dumb decision and you're like not prepping, like if they're not taking the time to scout or think about how they should deal with this, that's when it's like, okay, well, my like leniency has been moved a little bit more to like, you're gonna get the hard rolls, man. You know what I mean?
Be an idiot.
Yeah, right. And not they don't do that very often, but it's just like sometimes you don't recognize something. It's like, yeah, well, that's the problem. And you guys didn't notice the rock dangling above you. No one was like, huh, okay, we should think about not standing there. That kind of stuff. I don't know. What do you think? Are you trying to take them down?
I like stressing my players out, and I know I shouldn't. I know it's mean, but
no, it's a different kind of game, right?
The ideal is that the last fight before they're allowed a long rest, whether that's through environmental or story reasons, whatever else, right? The last fight before they're allowed a long rest should be so clutch. Like I do want them to be like, we're going to die, this is it, and then just pull through is the ideal. So every time that happens, I'm really happy about it. But it's hard to do.
Oh yeah, especially like I think here's an element that I do in mind because a lot of our combats are not just like this thing is trying to kill you. There's usually I might have talked about this last time, like a puzzle element to it where like I did this encounter where a hag kept spawning. So like you could kill it. It only had 10 hit points, but then it would spawn again. until you like dealt with
That's so fun.
killing all these voodoo dolls, right? And you had to take the voodoo dolls and throw it into the cauldron that she was spawning out of. That's the only way you
Right.
could do it. And she's going and she's stealing their hair and taking it back to the cauldron to then spawn ghost versions, like make a voodoo doll
Right.
that's a ghost version of them. So now their character's a ghost that's incorporeal that you can't hit, right? And so now it's about them making efficient decisions about gathering and when to fight and when not to fight. And then as she, you get closer and closer to the end, she's harder to hit now. She's like less grounded in reality, and then it becomes this like, okay, well, we have to make sure we're making clever decisions. So then it's less about like, did she roll well and do a bunch of damage? It's like, how did you structure your action economy to be efficient and taking care of the problem and protecting yourself, so a lot of my things are like that, where it's like you have to do these multiple facets. So it does feel 100% more on the players than it feels on like whether a roll went one way or another. And so then that was the way I'm taking a lot of the like, how does the encounter go out of my hands? I put it way more on them to make good decisions.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and it feeds in nicely into what the main topic of today is, which is going off book, which is something I think from actually anyone who's been listening to us for the first few minutes of this can tell.
Yeah,
we both quite like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's D&D at its purest.
Yes, I agree. What limitations do you think the standard books have that kind of encourage you to just be like, I'm going to take the thing you've given me and then give it an entirely new face?
Yeah. Do you mean like in the core rule books, or like just any
the general
like
rules? I think just overall.
Yeah, I think, homebrew is so. Homebrew is this, right? Like it's at its core what I think everybody does, because you're gonna play. You and I, it sounds like we agree on a lot, but I still think you and I would play our games differently. Like we would DM differently, and I think that's like the beauty of this game, is that everybody's just playing drastically differently. And I think, as a company who's trying to make money, this isn't a bad thing. This is just what they're doing. They have to homogenize it as best they can so that they can give someone like a centerpiece to work with. And then as you start to get into it, like when I first was playing, like the rules were important. We had to follow through with X, Y, and Z as they did it. And then you start to realize, I think the purest form is just ignoring all of that, not even considering that in any capacity. And like, it's a loose structure, especially to make sure everybody's living like a similar reality. But I think you throw it all away and you just start playing the game you want to play and create scenarios that are more interesting. When you talked about this, when we talked about this over email, you're talking like things I do that are different in the book. The thing that came immediately to my head was like, there's roles that are told you're supposed to do in the book, right? Like a contested strength roll, like someone comes up behind you and like grabs you and throws you, right? But there's times where that doesn't make sense. Like if you're sitting having dinner and then someone comes up behind you and just like immediately like puts you in a chokehold and throws you down, you don't have time to be like, wait a second. So yeah, you could do a contested roll, and I think that's fine. But I think a lot of the times where it's like it doesn't make sense in the story, I just throw those things away, because why? It's like it doesn't help with the beat of the story. It's like, yeah, not every single time is your character going to be the strongest or the best. Or same with like, I feel like charisma rolls are very persuasion. It's like, yeah, you could do deception, but it has to be, in my opinion, the deception has to be somewhat based in a believable reality. So like, yeah, you can roll a 20, but if you say like, I'm actually your mother, he's gonna have a hard time being like, well, I don't think so. Like you're very persuasive, but you're not, no, it's so, yeah. I think the rules are good as a starting point for everybody, but I think the goal of anybody as they play this game more and more is to get further and further away and more have your personalized style and know what's going to make your game with your players the most fun, and not what the rules tell you is going to be the most fun.
No, makes sense.
Yeah, do you follow the rules of the core rulebook very closely, or?
I have skimmed the rules.
Oh, perfect.
And that's as far as I've got. I write for a living, and I don't like reading as a result. I used to like reading, but don't monetize your hobbies, kids.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm very aware of the rules because I've had people DM for me. I've watched obviously various shows about it. I've voraciously consume videos on how to do this and X and Y and Z. But I think at the end of the day, I do the same thing, similar thing to you, where I'm just like, the rules are fun, and like it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
good to have a basic understanding of like hit points and ACs and spells and stuff work. Like that stuff I keep as is.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to like roleplay moments and
Yeah.
things that players are trying to do, and then also like a lot of the monsters, I think like 90% of the monsters I use are homebrewed
Oh
or at
yeah,
least
yeah.
tweaked. Like I'll
Mm-hmm.
take a monster and I'll be like, okay, this is a cool monster, but I need it to be slightly stronger, or I want this one to be harder to hit but have less health, or
Yeah.
I want this. I like, sometimes you take identical copies of something and you're like, I want them to not be sure when this is going to be hard and not. So it's going to look the same, but this one's got 1 health and this one's got 100 health, and they've just got
Right.
no way of knowing when
Yeah.
this is going to be the case because that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I think especially if you're new to DMing, I think people should not worry about what the monster manual says or like what the CR rating is.
No,
Swap the health. Don't worry about how many attacks your
yeah,
guy like. If you want to have them do like they're just the players are dominating a monster, right? Just make an attack that hits everybody. Like you can just do things
yep.
and it doesn't need to be grounded in like I'm playing the same way the players are. You're a different entity. You're doing something different.
You're
Like
not a
so
player. You're helping them live the story they want to live while telling the overarching tale you probably want to help tell, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, the rules are for the players. The
Yes.
rules are not for the DMs. You are as close to God in the scenario as it gets, and guess what? You get to decide how it goes, and that's as long as you're a good DM as long as that is serving the players. You're a bad DM if it's serving you and not the
Yes.
players. But there's that balance to keep in mind. But like, yeah, forget the rules, man. Like, is like, yeah, I'm trying to think of if I've ever really used a enemy or a monster as written. Like I know people are upset with CR. Like the CR is so imbalanced. Like I've never
It's
even
so
looked at
bad.
that. Yeah, well,
There's
yeah,
I don't think there's a single fight that my core group have done that isn't like quadruple deadly CR rating, because
yeah.
if you throw stuff like that at players who are competent
Hmm.
and who are working together, it doesn't matter how hard the fight's meant to be,
Right.
because good players can just completely walk around that stuff. Like it's so hard, especially once you get past like level 5. It's so hard to meaningfully damage players
Oh,
um
sure. Yeah.
in any kind of way. Like
Yeah.
it's nuts. And if you have like you say, if you have overtuned it and you're doing an attack and you're like, oh, that hit a lot harder than I thought, and it's meant to have 3 attacks, you're just like, okay, cool. It'll get those other attacks later on when it's lower on health. I ran a
Yeah.
Death Tyrant on Thursday.
Hmm.
Undead Beholder, super fun creature.
Oh,
Big fan
nice.
of the Beholders. Roll some dice, do some eye beams, chaos
Hmm.
ensues. Love it.
Yeah.
Like just love it.
Yeah.
It has legendary actions by default. I didn't give them it until most of the way through the fight because it was like it was trying to turn them to stone and like uh name a spell, disintegrating like
Mm-hmm.
every other turn basically, and it was like
Right.
I can't throw in legendary actions along top of that until they're closer to beating it because you're just gonna kill them, and that's not fun.
Right.
Like killing them can be fun. There are
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
where you're like your character's made a poor decision.
Yeah. Right.
I had a player run up to the big bad, very
Uh-huh.
clearly the big bad in a fight, and just stand there and trade blows with it. And I made it very clear after the first hit, I was like, you feel your life energy being drained from you, and you can see that the creature that's hit you looks better than it did.
Yeah.
Very, very clear. And I think the next time I was just like, you can see that he's healed. Like,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just like, go for the table, please move.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just didn't. And then he
Right.
died. And it was just like, I do feel bad about it. Like we obviously, I wrote him in. Like he built a new character. I found a way to introduce him later in the campaign. Not an issue.
Hmm.
But that
Right. But
player,
yeah.
that PC was stupid and made poor decisions and should die. Like I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
that's just how that works.
That's it. Right. Exactly. He just again, I think it needs to be about what the players decide. Again,
Yeah,
less than just like random dice rolls. So like him not, you're gonna lose that punch match, brother. Like you got to figure something else out. And which is
Just
great.
move away. There's 4 of you.
Yeah,
Take out the minions, which is clearly what you're meant to be doing, and then fight the big bad, all 4 of you. Not
yeah,
just run up to it.
and just start hitting. Yeah, which is also I'm curious if you do this because it seems like you're more hardcore towards your players.
I don't
So
mean to
huh?
I
No,
don't mean to be. I
no,
definitely
no,
am, but that wasn't my
not.
intention.
And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's very reasonable. It's like that's the style you're playing, so then your players know when they get into combat that's like what they signed up
Yeah.
for. So be strategic, right? Like, so what's always difficult for me is if the monsters played to the best of their ability and I set them up in an even somewhat balanced campaign, one player's dying,
100%.
right? Like if it was
Yeah.
legitimate actual combat.
If you were
So
being
are you?
mean, like
Yeah, like
attacking one player, counterspelling healing spells, when they fall over, hitting them again, it's
yeah.
so easy to do stuff like that, and DMs just don't do that.
Well, right, because it feels bad, and that's why
Just
I
feel
guess,
bad.
yeah, that's why I guess I don't believe in the combat as being like so serious because I'm not actually playing as a way of like if I was playing, oh, you guys are toast. Like even with like the balanced ones where it's
Yeah.
close, it's like yeah, if these guys were smart and could work together, you take down the guy doing the squishy guy in the back,
Yeah.
you set up a trap, you know, you do the things.
Yeah.
So I guess what's the workaround? Do you when you're in a hard campaign where they could die, are you just making sure that they're not getting single targeted and everybody's like trying to spread out? What are you doing there?
I do tend to spread the minions out a bit. So I'll spread like everything out a bit. I'll attack when it makes sense, and I'll be cruel when it makes sense narratively. I'll be
Okay.
crueler when it's like you say, when it's like a boss battle or when it's something. So the campaign that I finished,
Mhm.
the evil campaign, they were evil, and I felt a lot more comfortable being
Oh yeah.
incredibly cruel to their characters because their characters were horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
One of them, 2 of them survived, and one of them became infected with this it was the embodiment of the hatred that they've caused for everything they've done, basically.
Yeah.
Got cursed by this thing, and now he's just a potential big bad running around in our homebrewed world that will
Oh,
inevitably
nice.
come back to bite all of us in the
Yeah.
butt. Can't wait
So
to
good.
fight that, given that I've written a stat block.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just be like, oh, why?
Right.
Yeah, I think it has to make sense, not just from a narrative point, but it does sort of have to make sense from a creature point. There are creatures, I think, that you can throw in fights where they might not finish off the players because they're just trying to survive, right? A
Mhm.
wild animal probably won't finish off a player because it's trying to get away from them. Or if it's
Right.
hungry, then it might. But like usually, in most scenarios,
Right.
even the good guys, even the good player characters, are kind of the aggressors most of the time.
Yeah, always. I mean, that's to say it in the nicest way possible. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, most of the time you're like, oh yeah, because you could just there's no real consequences. Yeah,
yeah.
people can play.
You can just be the
They're
worst.
yeah, they're just going into someone's house. They're like hanging out. It's like, hey man, I'm sorry you're here, but smite, and then they just crack their skull and that's it. It's like
Yep.
dad, and then like it's terrible.
You the good guys, really? Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
sort of, but only because the other people are worse.
Yeah, that's really what it is. But it's like someone had a comment on one of my videos, and it was so perfectly encapsulated how my players. It's like my players haven't met an orphanage that they haven't burnt down. And you're like, yeah, yeah, that's
Oh man. Oh, that's rough.
yeah. And it's like always good intentions. Like, well, this is the best option we have, and it's like, yeah, but why is it always this? Why do we always get in this bad scenario?
How is this the end result every time?
You're right.
Especially because so many D&D characters are orphans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every backstory.
They're just making their next character. That's
Right?
all they're doing.
That child. I will play that child next.
Yeah, right. The cycle repeating itself.
Yep.
Dude, yeah. So so yeah, you don't go for someone singularly. You try to be.
I try to spread it out.
I think that's good.
So that everyone's got. I want everyone to have stuff to worry about and stuff to be able to beat. That's my aim. My aim is, like you say, my aim is like player engagement, player happiness. I want everyone to feel like they're doing a cool thing and that they're being threatened by a different, scary, cool thing. That's kind of my aim.
Yeah, right.
It gets tougher when it gets tougher when you've got like one big bad, but then that's what legendary actions are for, right?
Right.
Like I said, I ran the Death Tyrant, right? If I was playing that smart,
Oh.
all
Mhm.
3 of the eye beams would have been on one player every single
Yeah.
turn until that player was dead or turned to stone or disintegrated.
Yeah.
And then it would have been targeting something else. I
Yeah.
wasn't doing that. There were 3 players. It rolls 3 eye beams. I was doing one apiece.
Yeah. Right. Which, yeah, it's again way more fun.
Way more fun. Not in any way optimal for the Death Tyrant, though.
No, not at all. And I think you also brought up the good point that it's like not all of them are trying to just like straight up murder these people. So like if my players get really beat in a fight, it's like, oh, they took you captive, and now we're
Yes.
doing the classic. You're captured. You don't have
Yes.
any of your items. Now you have to escape, and that's always a fun time. So like, yeah, I guess there's other outcomes, but
Or they taught you a lesson, or they were just trying to escape in the first place, right? And they managed to do so. Like, there's so many ways of doing that so that the end result of the fight isn't death if the players lose.
Yeah.
Even though without a fail, they will finish off everyone they fight.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I try to have like if a group of bandits sees they're losing, some of them try to run.
Same.
Like you
100%.
gotta.
Yeah.
It's just reasonable because it also feels bad. It's like this one guy, and it's like, okay, he seems scared, and then everybody's like, yeah, so I cut off his legs, and you're like, what are you doing, man?
You've got to chill.
Yeah.
This person probably has family. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, it gets so dark so fast. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
having the other outs is nice.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think it's important to have, because I don't think that's something that's in the rules, that monsters would run away. I think it's really important that the bad guys try to get away from it, because why would a bandit stay in a fight they're getting trounced in?
Yeah, they're just trying to get money. Like they see this dude has like godly actions. He's not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm still worried about my highway toll. Like I think he's gonna be like, I think I skedaddle.
Have my shoes. I will just leave. Like,
yeah, right.
They're not sticking around for that. The same is true of wild animals, right? Like, someone who's got dogs under their control, once that person's down, the dogs are bolting.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're not going to be loyal to the person that was obviously, they're like, statistically speaking, wasn't being nice to the dogs, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to stick around for that. Why would they? And it's the same with it, like so many things. They're not trying to fight. They're trying to survive. And there's a very different thing. And I think that's a really important thing that I don't think is in the books.
No, you're right. That is definitely not in the books. And I think, I can't remember, that might have been a Matt Colville take. I don't know if you ever watch any of his stuff of like I recommend it. I think he's like considered the classic like holy grail of DMing. And to be fair, our games, like I don't play like Matt Colville suggests. He's a little bit more like old school war gamer. But yeah, like you just get that from the community, and that's the other thing I think that people should do in this, like be different from the books, is like steal what other people are doing that is good. Like you brought up the roguelite that you probably saw it somewhere, and they just like, yeah, perfect, great. There's no reason you shouldn't take that and make it
Dark
yours.
Souls. I was just like, I'm just going to put Dark Souls mechanics into this dungeon.
Yeah,
they rest at a bonfire which has coffins in it. They come back in the coffins. That's just Dark Souls.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You didn't even need to steal it from somebody. It's straight from Dark Souls.
I'm not reinventing the wheel here. It's super cool in D&D.
Exactly. Like, yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's
the original to be fun, though, right? Like,
yes, exactly. I think that's an element of like, don't follow the rules and don't feel like you have to make your magnus opus that only you've done. It's like, hey man, people love Lord of the Rings. You can follow a Lord of the Rings structure. It doesn't, of course, don't like, it's not gonna be fun for the players if you're doing one for one. It's like, this is Smoggle. He's a small, like people are gonna be like, yeah, I get what we're doing.
Unless that's what they want to do, unless they do want to RP through Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, the second I did say Smoggle, I was like, that'd be kind of funny. My place would be like, what are we doing? And then you just make him funny, and
Smoggle is 100% in one of your campaign sessions in the next like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. I'm gonna apologize to my players in advance. Smoggle's coming out. That's so funny. But yeah, dude, like just. It's okay to take what's good and then mash it up into your specific flavor of things.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to go about doing these. Do things different than the rules say, and then take your favorite things from other stuff. And then you get the best experience possible, because that's all we're trying to do is just have fun with our friends, like in our house. Like we're not broadcasting it to an audience. No. If you're doing a live play, probably don't steal as much. But
But you can still fudge things.
Oh, you can 100%.
So if you're doing an actual play at high levels, you've got like story writers helping you out and stuff. So
that is true. Yeah.
It's a very different experience.
Yeah, it's so true.
I'm not doing that.
No, no,
It's not
you're
what I'm
right.
aiming for. I've
Yeah,
got
right.
4 idiot friends, and we all want to be idiots together. Like that's basically our D&D
Uh-huh.
group.
Oh yeah.
Um, do you think it matters that you go off the rules?
I mean, no, not at all. I don't think anybody cares, what you do with your friends in your
Some
basement,
people care.
I mean, some people do care, and I think those people aren't actually playing, or they're playing in settings where they have to play like they're playing with strangers and they want them to be different than they are,
Yeah.
instead of allowing people to play how they want to play.
So
Because again, this game is. I think we talked about this a little last time. It's hard to do advice for D&D
mm,
because I mean, I don't know how many people play like me. One, we don't have like I haven't seen enough games, and that's why like Critical Role is
mm,
like people use that, or like Dimension 20 use that as their like core of what the
touchstone.
game
Yeah.
is. Yeah, Touchstone's the perfect word for it. So, but like most people aren't playing that way.
Mm,
They're not trying to be voice actors. A lot of people are just messing around, having a good time, joking around, and not taking it seriously. So yeah, dude, the rules don't matter. How you play or how someone else plays is going to be unique, and just embrace that it's going to be unique. Um, and I've said it a thousand times. I'm going to say it again. Just play whatever is the most fun for your group. It doesn't matter what someone on Reddit says. That's not, you're not playing D&D. It's like, okay, great. Then I'm not playing D&D. I'm playing D&D Light, or I'm playing Pathfinder, or, like what I'm
yeah.
just playing whatever we're playing. And then, so yeah, I mean, do you think there's like it matter? Yeah.
I'm inherently anti-rules. Just
Hmm.
which is so funny because I was such a goody two shoes as a kid.
Yeah.
I hit a
Finally,
certain point.
rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. I hit a certain point in my teen years, and I was just like, no, I'm still kind of a goody two shoes,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
with a slightly rougher edge.
Yeah, right.
Certainly, while D&D, while DMing and stuff, like the rules are, and
Yeah.
it's still D&D because we're using D&D classes and stuff, and
Hmm.
I think you can take and replace things as often as you want, and I do think it is still the same game, the ship of D&Dcius, if you will.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't think it should matter to anyone. I don't think it matters to my group. They have fun. I
Hmm.
mess with the rules. We all play all when we're DMing. All 4 of us use slightly different versions of rules anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
You just deal with whatever's happening in the moment,
yeah,
and yeah, it doesn't go your way. I think that's also maybe something that happens where people get a little butt hurt because they thought they were going to do this super cool
yeah,
thing, and then they get told they can't. And sometimes that's on the DM, and sometimes that's on the player.
yeah.
But
It goes
but
both ways.
yeah, but I think the end rule is don't care about whether you get to do the cool thing. Like if you're having a bad time because the DM's like, no, you can't do that
Yeah,
because it's not exactly how they thought about it, then yeah, that's not a good time. Maybe find a different group, or maybe
yeah,
be like, talk to the DM and say that's. But otherwise, I think you just roll with the punches and be like, yeah, I didn't get to do that. And how do I lean into that not working? How do I turn
yeah.
this into a joke? How do I make it part of the story? Like
Exactly.
own it.
Yeah, because you can take. I mean, that's the joy of D&D is reveling in those failures, right? Reveling in
Yeah.
the
Oh
things
yeah.
where you thought you can do just something really cool and being like, because it's not a video game, which means that messing up means that you can go, okay, what would my character learn from this? How would they adapt? Would they change their spell list because the spell didn't work the way they thought it would? Which is the
Right.
DM's decision, but you get to react to that, and you can choose to be upset by that.
Hmm.
And obviously, if the DM's being the worst, then that's different, right? That's not
Yeah.
that's an
Those are the
outlier,
edge cases. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You can't
Exactly.
use that.
But if there's a perfectly good reason for it, like if you use command on this creature that I forgot to give legendary resistance to, I'll cry. Uh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's a perfectly good reason not to let command work because obviously they just
Right.
didn't think about it, and sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Or suggestion. Suggestion's the big one, right?
Oh
Suggestion is a
yeah.
game breaker of a spell. I did it twice. One made one goblin go and reflect on his misogynistic views.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was just spewing. The character was just being the worst, and I was like, I got a suggestion on him. I was like, go home, rethink your life, and rethink how you view women. Talk to your mother, like sort it out,
Yeah.
basically, and just held concentration for 8 hours. So he went home and he hopefully sorted his life out, and I love that for him.
That's
Um,
yeah. That's so funny.
But the next time I cast it, it was on like the last remaining guard on something, and the DM was just like, I can't let you have this. Like, you have to fight this guy. Sorry. And it's just like, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like, I was a little sad about it, but like I got to do other cool stuff instead. We got to put an immovable rod onto a big tree monster, and I cast heat metal on it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
He's so good.
yeah,
I mean, I love that.
ups and
And
downs, right?
hey, here's the one thing I would say to you saying like, oh, I can't let you do this.
Yeah.
I say you do let him do it, and you just make one more guard.
Yeah,
He
you can
came
always do
around the
that
corner.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Like I think it's really important, or I think it's valuable to keep on giving your players the yes, but then still doing what you want, but making it feel grounded. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
high level DMing, I think, to just be like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, of course you can do that. And out of his shadow steps the
yeah, yeah,
same dude again.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
he was
like,
a clone, or like it doesn't even
yeah,
matter.
yeah. But I mean, like, it can still be grounded. Like, if you guys were trying to escape and get the treasure room, it's like, well, more guards heard and two guys came around the corner. Like, you can still get the element without just being like, not right now. You say, yeah, awesome. And then, so again, more chaos, more fudging the numbers to your favor and giving the illusion that it was going to be that they still have like the perfect ownership of what's happening.
100%. And that's something I do in fights a lot as well, where I'm like, oh yeah, the fight's a little easy. I'm just gonna like I'll just add a 0 to the number of enemies they're fighting.
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
you're fighting, the ruckus that you've caused you hear stomping down the hall, and 10 more guys appear because you guys are finding this way too easy, and I need to make the combat last slightly longer, so I've got time to figure out what's happening next.
Like, yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's I did this in the Cauldron Hag fight, right? Like, at one point, she could attack one person at a time. Well, it was getting close to the end of the fight. They were starting to get momentum. They like it to kind of stabilize. It's like, okay. And she does this like sweeping attack where she gets to hit all of you in a line. And now it's like, well, she's able to steal this much. And so it just is like, it just makes it for a more interesting thing where it's like, oh, we figured this out. Now we just can slowly march to the end. It's like, no, more chaos, more like twists, because that's the memorable part.
That's especially important in fights like that, where the goal isn't necessarily to beat the thing. The goal is to like overcome the obstacle. You can make the obstacle taller. Your players will never know. I mean, you can tell them afterwards, and they'll still be like, "Sick!" Like they're not going to care. They had fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell my players most of the stupid stuff I've done immediately after the session. I'm like, oh,
really?
I wasn't going to do this, but like you guys did this, and I changed the AC, or I did this, or blah blah blah. Like if it's I won't for like the long campaigns, then I think secrecy is important. But because so many of the campaigns I run are like between 3 and 6 sessions, like, they can know the secrets. They're all, like I said, 3 of them are DMs.
Yeah, they know what's going on.
They're doing the same stuff I'm doing, and then we trade secrets, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that's right. Then you just get better, right? Like, and I 100% agree with that on like the shorter campaigns. On my long one, I like a player was like, what would have happened if this didn't work out? And I always just say, I don't know, because I do like keeping in a long campaign this sense of the world is real and it's not like
100%.
established.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like the world has to feel a bit more immersive, right? And cohesive, I guess. Whereas, if you're doing I run a lot of short campaigns because I like doing it, and it means my players get a chance to play a lot of different builds.
Yeah,
we get to test these ridiculous spells, and I'm like speed running to being a better DM by just doing so many different styles of DMing so quickly, and also I get to use loads of cool monsters, and that's so much fun.
Yeah, well, and 6 sessions in a week is gonna speed run to.
I came out of that week and I was just like hovering around on dice.
Yeah, that's so funny. A special glow around you.
Don't do that.
No, it's so good. You should do that.
Well, here's a question. So many of those sessions.
Yeah, here's a question for you on making players, or making characters. Do you follow the rules strictly on character develop or like creation?
I do.
Ooh, okay. So there you're locked in. Do you think it's okay to not?
I do. I think it's fine to not.
Yeah,
like. So we were talking about magic before we hit record. Yes. I love building things within limitations. The limitations are a big part of what makes a build, whether that's a magic deck or a character, appealing to me. Those whether they're self-imposed or imposed by the rules. I think that's where the best creative like outcomes occur. So having X amount of stat points to allocate and things like that, and then role playing those stats as they are, is a lot of fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
I fully understand that it's not a lot of fun for everyone, and that's perfectly fine.
Oh, sure, yeah.
At no point I don't care how other people play, and I don't mean that as a mean thing. It's just life is short.
Yeah.
Super short, and D&D is this wonderful escape of creativity and roleplay, which I think a lot of us can't do in our day-to-day lives because, you know, capitalism.
Yeah.
I like playing within the stats. So if I've got a character who's got 8 intelligence, I play them as an idiot.
Yeah.
And I find great joy in that.
100%.
And my monk who's got 22 wisdom at the moment, I get to implant my like foresight and my understanding of how the world works and my understanding of how plot hooks and stuff works into him, because that high wisdom is fun to roleplay as like understanding how meta narrative works.
Yeah, right.
Because that's what that stat represents.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of fun for me. I fully understand that if you're playing a barbarian and you want him to be a full-on buck nerd, but you've had to dump intelligence because the game just doesn't support that, that's perfectly fine.
Right. Yeah, I think that I'm with you though. I love the limitations. Like the limitations are what makes a character interesting versus like he's smart and suave and is really strong. It's like,
and
okay,
he's so tall.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have bills to pay.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, I think that's a lot of people's like first characters getting into it is like, how do I make them good at everything? And then as you play more and more, you're like, how do I make all my stats bad? But
I want to be good in combat, but bad at everything else.
Yeah. But I think it's good. I've been trying to encourage my players. So I made like a character backstory cheat sheet thing that kind of gives people different things to flesh out. So their character's not just like, he's loyal. And it's like, yeah, but what does loyal look like in a day-to-day? Like, how do you act as a loyal person? It's like, you know, it's not one of those active traits.
Yeah.
And in it is, I wanted to give everybody kind of like force them into a mechanical, like, trait. So they have something that is positive, but also has a negative drawback. So they kind of like I liked curses a lot of like, you get this benefit, but you also get hurt, you know? And yeah, I think it's, I like, and especially long campaigns. Short campaigns is different. But like long campaigns, giving yourself that thing to give your character something unique and different compared to like, I've played a fighter, I've played a sorcerer how many times? I need something that makes this person a little bit different. I think that's really helpful for people. And so they don't feel stuck to like, well, these are just my options. And there's so many subclasses we've talked about, like, and so you can find something, but I think it's also fine to just be like, you know what? I just feel like I've never found an earthbender class. I'm sure that's already exists, but like, I just want to play this. And how do I make it legitimate and not feel broken? And then that's when people start making their own homebrew and making their own subclasses. But I think that's like, at least I think it's a small element. Like I had a warlock who, his little extra bit of mechanical things is when he goes down to unconscious for the first time, a demon that has in his body that he's supposed to transport to hell, like that's his backstory, right? Like it takes over, and then this thing is massive and starts attacking friend and foe alike, and then he has to get knocked down again to then like mellow out, and then you come back, and now you have to explain to the other players, like you get this little extra benefit of being, you know, like you get a second wind basically, because he's going to be way stronger. But the drawback is, you know, he's fighting everybody, and now you have this story narrative that is completely different than like most other people have when they play a warlock, you know. I think that when people make characters is pretty helpful, you know, to step away from the rules in that capacity so you can tell a better story.
100%. I think it's also a lot of fun to move away from some of the optimal decisions as well to help facilitate that. So my Himbo Bard didn't have vicious mockery for the first 6 levels.
Oh, nice.
Which is like an integral bard spell, right? But he was too nice. He didn't want to be mean to anyone. So he was trying to stop he was trying to stop violence. And the result was he was wandering into fights and hitting things with his keytar and his sickle that he had because he used to help with farming. Like super, super unoptimal.
Right. Oh, but that's so much better.
So much fun.
Yeah, better is not the right word. It's so much fun. That seems I like that so much more than, because again, you get homogenized. Like there is a best option.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to play the best, you play a fighter or you play a sorcerer, you're going to pick the best option. You play a bard. You're always picking these same
It's
things.
hard
You're
not
falling
to.
down this. Yeah. And it is very hard not to. So that's why I think it's good to kind of like set the framing of my goal is not to be good. I mean, again, depends how you play. This is well, X, Y, and Z. Don't listen to me. Do whatever you want. But yeah, it's. I think it's more fun to play something that is unique to you than like the guaranteed, proven in the book. We followed this path, and here it is.
Yeah, I want to play a character. I don't want to play a build.
Yeah, perfect. That's a perfect way to put it.
That's like
put it on a t-shirt.
Maybe. Yeah, that's kind of my view on it. Like, he eventually did pick up, my father did eventually pick up Vicious Mockery, but even then it was just like, you're a stupid blob, to like the Gelatinous Cube. That was his Vicious Mockery. Like, he's still not good at insulting people. And I had a word with my DM and I was like, I want it to be the damage that he's causing is because whatever he's insulting can tell he's trying to be mean. And he's just bad at it. Like, that's what's causing the psychic damage. It's just how bad he is at insulting things.
Yeah, and they like almost feel bad. They're like,
they're like, oh, like it's just like, oh, it's like cringe damage.
Psychic
damage.
Ooh, yeah,
same thing.
It's so funny.
It is funny, but you can't get that from the book.
No, right, exactly. You can't get that from the book. Again, I saw a video, and this is similar on that theme of like D&D doesn't have to be a certain thing of like. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember it well. But the simplistic thing was this DM was trying to teach someone to play D&D and they had never played it before. And she just goes, okay, we're going to play right now.
Oh, it's the Deborah and Wall thing with Punisher.
Yes, exactly.
John
I forget his name. John Punisher's. I think that's canon. So, like seeing that moment of her being like, all you do, the D&D at its core is literally just being like, you're in the woods.
Yep.
You hear a crack, you have a bow and this, and now just make the decision. Don't worry about the rules. You don't have to think, just what do you feel in this moment? What does your character think? And I think that's something that gets lost on people who are getting into it fresh and they don't understand that, like, well, here's 2 textbooks. Go ahead and read through these. We'll see you in a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't need any of that to its core, especially again, if you're new and ever want to try it. Just start playing. Like, I have so many people who are like nervous, like, I don't know the rules. Like, you don't need to. You literally do not need to know the rules.
Yep.
This is the DM's job, and even then, the DM doesn't need to know the rules. Just roll the dice, and if he says it works, it works.
Yeah,
that's it.
If if they're sneaking through woods, make them roll a stealth check if you want to. If they roll low, you can be like, okay, cool. Some wolves heard you. Like, you can, as a DM, you can wing everything.
Yeah. You don't have to know anything. Yeah, and again, a lot of times I've like gotten rid of a lot of like general, like if the stealth roll is they fail, but the likelihood of them like in reality thinking about it being found out because they failed, it's like, why am I making them roll?
Yes.
Just don't roll. Just move on. Like, okay, you had a good plan. You went in a path where no one's in. You didn't accidentally stub your toe, break the vase. You know what I mean? And then the wall fell down and then all the guards are looking at you. Like, there's a, you can have just plausibility. So I think leave those things to the side and you won't have to worry about it.
And you can reward those like good ideas as well. I also like rewarding players who have optimized, because if a player's rolled a character who's incredibly good at persuading stuff, right? They've got a 20, they've got expertise in persuasion, they've got advantage on it because they're a handsome goblin. I don't know, whatever it is, right? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If I don't think the thing that they're doing is unreasonable, they're gonna persuade they're gonna persuade whoever it is they're talking to. As long as it's reasonable, like, I'm not gonna make them roll for it. If it's unreasonable, then you can roll for it.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. A lot of times, it's weird because again, a lot of people will get. I think there's people online who get upset about this, where it's like, why are you making me do a puzzle? Or come up with a thing to say when I could just say I say the right thing here, versus like you don't make me stand up and do a bench press, or like to show how strong I am. It's like, because we can't emulate that part of the game, but you can emulate the thinking part and I'm not
asking you to be charismatic. I'm just asking you to come up with like a reasonable argument in the moment. You can word it terribly.
Yeah, it's fine.
You'll get the benefit. Be charming, but like just putting a little bit of thought into it. I fully agree.
Yeah, because at that point we're just playing numbers simulator.
That's like,
fun. Yeah, right. the best part is that you get to do this event that is not done before, and it is. I figured it out. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%.
Mhm.
I like, you don't need to do it in a voice. You don't need to do it impassioned with emotion. But
Mhm.
I agree. I think certainly after the first couple of sessions, when you're feeling a bit more comfortable, like, why would what is the right thing here? Like, tell me what you think the right thing is.
Mhm.
And if it's good enough, you don't have to roll.
Yeah.
And if it's
Right.
bad enough, I'll let you roll. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a failure automatically. Like,
Right.
there's going to be like a rough DC in my head that I've got, which can
Mm.
change.
Yeah.
DCs are malleable.
Oh man.
DCs
Yes,
are
they
super,
are.
because sometimes you're like, no, I really need you to find this out, and you've all rolled a 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Oh man. Especially like clues. That's one of the things I'm even debating. Like, do I even just make them roll? They found it.
I've done it
Like,
sometimes,
you
yeah.
look at like they roll, and then I'm like, man, good thing the DC was a
Oh, you
5.
have advantage on this because Fish just slapped you in the face. I
Yeah,
remembered.
yeah,
That gives
right.
you advantage. That's your character's thing, right?
Yeah, of
No?
course.
I
Yeah.
think it is. I
I
think
don't
it
know.
is.
We're gonna do it for now. We'll look into it later. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, maybe it's. We'll just go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think things like that you probably get away with not rolling, but again, people like rolling dice too, so
It's
it's like
fun. It
tough.
is fun to roll and succeed at a thing, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
ultimately.
Hit the 20, you're like, yeah. It's like, I mean, that's it. You know, you hit the
Yeah.
20.
Especially at high levels when you're like
Oh yeah.
36 and you're
Hmm.
like, I think you can see through time. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what
yeah.
to do with a 36. How do
Yeah,
I
yeah.
balance 36 as a dice roll?
Yeah, yeah. That's when it's a real. I don't. What do you do playing?
So
This, you do the high level stuff. I literally don't know how to do it, man. Like it seems so complicated.
we're so in the campaign we're playing where we hit level 16
Uh huh.
actually really recently,
Yeah.
which is dumb. But
Yeah.
one of the characters is a bard, and he is a bard with expertise in deception, expertise in persuasion, expertise in performance, like all these things. He took
Yeah.
glibness as well, and he's a College of Whispers bard, so he can steal the form of someone when they die.
Oh,
He
great.
stole the form. This is what I'm playing in, thankfully. And
Yeah.
the my DM life, he's so good at what he does, and I
Yeah.
don't know how he does it. So the player took the form of the mini big bad we defeated,
Uh huh.
walked through this demon prison. He had glibness on. His
Uh huh.
minimum roll was a 36. That was his
Oh my
minimum
gosh.
roll on the skills that he was using. And the DM was just like, okay, cool, yeah, you shout. He was like, you're very aware that pit fiends can see through illusions. You can see a pit fiend at the bottom of this thing. And he's like, okay, I'll just gather the ones at the top. And I'm going to tell them that I was injured and that the people we're hunting got away, which was our party, right? Got away. And the
Yeah.
rest of us had seeming on, to look like horned devils.
Yeah.
And the DM was just like, yeah, cool. And like literally 20 demons left the area that we would have had to fight through.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of health potions because they were like, okay, well, we'll take these. And he was like, no, leave those. And he rolled a 36 again because
Right.
you can't roll lower than that. So we ended
Oh
up with a
my.
bunch of health potions and a huge fight was just gone.
Wow. I mean, yeah, but that's like what a good story and what a good feeling as a player. Like
Right. That's
that's
something he's been trying to do for ages, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
everything lined up.
And it was
And
clever.
it is clever. But that's it, right? It's clever and it's something his character would do and it's in keeping with the world's reality.
Yeah, yeah. If he just said, "Get out of here, guys," it'd be like, "Why?" You know. So like,
Yeah,
it's
like
good that he had a whole plan. He
yeah.
got away with the extra health potions. Good win. You know.
It was clutch. We nearly died so many times we were in hell. It was on the second layer of hell.
Oh
It
yeah.
was a pocket dimension. We were fighting Rakshasa and Greater Rakshasa.
Oh great. Yeah.
Horrible,
All the demons.
stressful things. Stress. That was. Do you know those D&D sessions where you, as a player, you're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it
This
was
is getting a
those
little
for
forced.
like 4 weeks.
Wow.
Twice a week for 4 weeks, we were in that stressful, and it was like D&D's fun. D&D's fun.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome though. That's a great. That seems. I would love. I haven't played many campaigns or sessions like that where it's like serious combat we're trying not to die the entire time. I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
I think it is a lot of fun. I think that's one of the reasons I like running sessions like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the only way to do that as a DM is to like mess around with numbers sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm not shy about killing characters, especially not in shorter campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
You're not that attached to Biff Majee, who's you created half an hour ago because you forgot we were playing today. Like,
right.
I'm not going to feel bad about killing that character, even if I've already planned out a huge arc for them, which
Right.
I've done.
Yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
I killed one player. The first kill I got was, they were just fighting some spiders in a cave. Not a super satisfying story beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the phase spiders rolled a nat 20 and doubled
yeah.
the poison and then the physical damage, and the dude was on like 3 health, and I was like, so you
Goodbye.
feel this warmth spread through your body, and the warmth turns to horrible heat,
Mm-hmm.
and your friends watch as you dissolve into a puddle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that happens.
And then he made a character, and I nearly killed that character too, because I rolled 2 nat 20s on a disadvantage attack with a small worm.
Oh yeah, I mean those, you're like, too bad, man. The rarity of that.
It's happened several times to this one player. My dice hate this player.
That's crazy.
I don't understand. It's a 1 in 400 chance.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's
understand. I understand.
Yeah, your dice do hate that player.
Just specifically that guy. It doesn't matter if I'm using physical or digital dice as well. I've tried both, and either way, the dice are just like, no, to this one guy. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to kill you, but the game definitely is.
Yeah. And it's time to get rid of you.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
That's so funny. Oh man. Yeah, I want to do one of those. I mean, you know what? You're talking me into doing a little bit more hardcore, just fun. Like, most likely someone's dying here.
I think for those times, I actually think those are the times when you need to move as far away from the books as you can, because there's nothing in the books that accurately balances an encounter. You have to do that yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's also maybe a reason that I haven't gone to the higher level, because in the books it's so obvious that it's broken.
Oh, there's just nothing so Life describes it. This is the main DM the main DM at the moment of our group. He describes it as being a lot like level 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Because every fight could be a breeze or could be absolutely fatal.
Right.
It's just that at higher levels it's flashier.
Yeah, right.
That's the only difference. So
true. Yeah, and again, it comes down to that problem of like, all right, are these guys being smart at all? Because if they are, one of you guys dies literally every combat.
Yeah.
Like, if you win a 4-on-4 combat and you win 3-0, what a good win.
Well.
Yeah. But the fact that you think you're going 4-0 every single time, crazy. You know, it just doesn't make any sense.
But so you can't kill the players at that level because they've got, they're just carrying around sacks of diamonds and they've all got Revivify.
That is true. Maybe that is actually the best way to play it. It's just like you have to have this many Revivifies. And so it's more about attrition than it is like your character actually dies forever, which again becomes more video game-esque, more Souls-like of doing like a roguelike. Like you're just playing almost a different game at that point.
It's funny that as in-depth as the rules are, they become so utterly useless past level 10. And that I don't know if there's a way to write it that it isn't the case. I think the onus is almost always going to be on the DM, because how do you balance a game with several quadrillion potential combinations in a single character, just of their class, their stats, their feats, their spells, let alone a party of 4, a party of 6.
Yeah.
You can't balance that. There's no way of writing that into a book.
This is my theory on why we have like level 10 to 20 is, well, I mean, obviously marketing, it like helps. It fills out the pages. But on the other side of things, I think it's because people like the feeling of I could get there. And if you end at 10, the feeling of like, well, I'm at the end doesn't feel good. But most people are stopping around that level.
Yes.
So like 10 to 20 is just like, look what I could become. but you never ever get there. So it's just like this feeling of like the world's bigger than it is kind of thing.
Mm.
You know, it's like having an open world in your game, having a map, and you never go to any of the other cities, but on your map you show that you have all of them. So it
Yeah.
feels like there's a lot more going on. And
Yes.
so I think a lot of people, well, again, you guys are playing up at that higher level, but again, you're almost then playing a different game.
It
You're
does feel
not
like a
following,
different game.
and you're playing like a different, like you're not following the rules like we
No.
were saying. So yeah, it's literally, I think it helps later. I'm like, oh, if I go to level 15, I can get this thing. Awesome. Now I've never ever gotten that thing. But I made my decision to go that way because at level 15 I might get there,
Yeah.
you know? And it feels good. Because have you ever played Dungeon World?
No.
Okay, Dungeon World is powered by the Apocalypse. It's a 2d6 system where it's like it's very simplified. And if you in your 2d6 you have a failure, but like 6 and below, 6 to like 10 is a partial success, and then 11 and 12 are full successes, right? And so you're just rolling, and it's very simple. But the characters are really pulled back. Like there's not a lot of like feats and spells, and it does only go to level 10. And like you can basically start getting almost everything at like level 4. Right. Like you have everything accessible to you. And so then you're just kind of like filling out your thing. And for some reason, I like the simplified games, but I didn't like the character creation because it just felt so small.
Yeah.
Even though I never got to any of those things, it just felt small. And so the idea that, again, I could look at level 20 levels made it feel like I had so many more options, even though I wasn't using them. And I think that's a huge part that like plays into like the fantasy of this character, who they can become.
I think that's a really interesting point.
Yeah,
especially because, well, I mean, if you watch like Colby from D&D Deep Dive D4, his builds stop at 17.
Oh, do they?
Because he's like, there's no point in doing 18, 19, 20. Nobody goes like, nobody goes past 12, 13, really, let alone 20. Like we are, but
but it's like fun.
My group of crazy people.
yeah.
Do not emulate us. Again, 6 sessions in a week, and I played one, so 7 nights of D&D. It was glorious.
Yeah.
But like, don't do that.
Right.
That's not normal.
Right.
All of us have a problem. There's so much neurodivergency, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in all our groups.
It's a requirement, I think.
Yeah, of D&D, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But it says a lot that, like, even this guy that does these incredibly mechanical videos is just like, I'm not doing 18, 19, 20. Nobody cares.
Yeah. I would love to actually see the stats. I would love if, like, and maybe it's out there. Maybe I just haven't looked. But like a D&D Beyond, like how many characters are actually played at what, you know?
Well, they can.
At what level?
Surely they can, because they pulled it. They did those stats a while ago, didn't they? Where it was like most people are half elf fighters.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So they must be aware.
Yeah,
there would be a really interesting. I would love to know like what percentage of characters are obviously level 1 characters can be most, because there's definitely a bunch of people out there that are just like creating characters constantly, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of ones that are like in campaigns, because that's something you can do in D&D Beyond. The ones that are assigned campaigns, like what is the average level of those characters? And I wonder if the average level across every campaign is just like 3.
Oh yeah. What is the average level? Because but I saw other people who like hate level 1 to 5. So 5 to 10 might be the sweet spot for like the majority of people.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see, because again, I love it, but I saw XP to level 3, right? He did one of his YouTube polls, and in his thing, he was like, "Where do you start? Do you start at level 1 and level 3?" And I was going through the comments, and man, the number of people are like, "Yeah, a lot of people do 3."
That's why.
And then a lot of people are like, "I do 5." You know what I mean? Because they're like, "I hate 3 and 4." That's what I thought.
3's fun. I like so it would be. I think I'd start more campaigns at 1, but with the new PHB, you don't get subclass to level 3. And I think the subclass is such an integral part of your character.
Oh, sure,
the vast majority of the time, that it feels weird not having the subclass, especially for warlocks and clerics and paladins and stuff, right?
It's like, signifier of who they are. Like, and a lot of people brought that up in that one post of like, if I'm writing a backstory and I can't do like the core thing that my person does, and I have to figure out why that's happening, like that makes sense. Yeah. But I mean, I'm again level 1 simp. I'm ready to go. We're doing. You guys are just people, and you're just trying to get through the day. Like that's my favorite.
You have a day job.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, you're more worried about your basic needs, okay? How we getting food? We don't have any money, like um but yeah, yeah, I think 3 is probably the most common starting point. So yeah, I would love to see the level spread. I mean,
I
again, obviously there's people still doing it for fun, even if it's not like full campaigns, but there's definitely people who do at least one shots for sure, level 15, 20.
While we're doing a mini campaign,
Mhm.
I'm running a mini campaign, 5
Yeah.
sessions, and they started at level 11
Yeah.
because they talked me into it. I was like
Yeah,
level
yeah,
6,
right.
and they were like, "Can we be level 7?" And I was like, "If you want, can we be level 8?" I was like, "Just
Fine.
tell me the level you want to be."
Yeah, yeah.
Level
That's
11. Cool.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Fine.
I mean, I guess what's the difference? It's yeah, I mean, the 7 is they're kinda already broken too, so
Right?
11 is just what's I mean, come
You've
on,
just got
.
slightly more broken stuff, and
Yeah.
like I said, I like as a DM, I like having higher level players because I get to be like reaching a little deeper in the bag of horrible things I can throw at
Yeah,
them, um,
right.
and being like, "Oh yeah, you fight two Alhoons." Would say, yeah, the last fight was two Alhoons and a Death Tyrant, and
Yeah.
that's not something you can throw at low level players because they
No,
will
no.
die very
Well,
quickly.
you still can. It just,
But yeah, that's true. That is true. You totally
different kinda
can.
campaign. Yeah.
That's a very mean way to end
Yeah.
things.
Then to be fair though, I do use a lot of like high level CR
Mm.
monsters and low things. I just cut their stuff back pretty
Yeah, that makes sense.
drastically.
You just tweak it. Well, because it's fun, right? You fight a dragon is like an integral part of D&D, but like,
Yeah, yeah.
how many player groups are getting up to a level where they can fight an adult dragon?
Right. It's like most of the fun monsters
Yeah,
are so it's yeah, like again, eye tyrant for sure. Like you can throw it in. Why not?
so much
He's
fun.
just missing some of his eyes. So like you
Yeah,
can like
I've taken away the ones that can kill you instantly
right.
because you can't deal with that. You don't have greater restoration. If you get petrified, that's it. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
take that one away.
Yeah, yeah.
No, 100%. 100%. Yeah, and I think that's actually a lot of fun as well as taking a creature that you want because it's thematic and then being like, it's too strong. I'll
Mhm.
take 3 points off its AC. I'll take 75% of its health. I'll lower the damage of its attacks. And sometimes when you can be in the middle of the fight and you can hit and you're like,
Hmm.
I've done the maths wrong
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere here. It needs a lower AC. It needs a lower damage threshold.
Oh.
It needs
Yeah,
this.
dude, the number of times I've rolled a damage dice and I'm like, 18? So you take 7 points of damage. You know what I mean? Like all the time. I mean, I don't know. Are you fudging the
I
dice rules like
don't
that?
fudge dice rolls.
Oh yeah, so you're
Well,
locked in.
I
Yeah.
can't because we're doing all of ours digitally and we roll the
Oh yeah.
dice in the game. So everyone can see what the result is.
Yeah. Yeah. So so yeah, you're locked in. See, here's the thing. I save the serious
Mm.
moments, like a do or die kind of moment. I do that in front of the table. And usually what I do is I set the parameters. Like I think in Dimension 20, something Brennan Lee Mulligan does really well
Oh,
is
the Box of Doom.
the yeah, and what I
Yeah.
think he does is the Box of Doom is fun. Like I think it's a fun, but like the really thing is he going, this is the DC.
Yeah.
You understand what you need, and now you have this feeling of like, so when you're rolling, you know what you're looking for
Yeah.
instead of like you roll and then you find out, is that right?
Yes.
And I think that's a really good way to go about it is to give the players like on these big moments, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a legendary moment or are you really going to have a bad time?
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I fully agree. I think that's a lot of fun to be like, the DC is this.
Hmm.
You need to make this.
Yeah.
Please don't mess this up. It'll upset me.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the
you're right,
DM.
you're right. Yeah, yeah. This session's gonna be way worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to play Jackbox or something after
Yeah,
this
yeah,
because
yeah,
you'll
yeah.
all die.
Yeah, man, that is something that is like okay, so you have some hard campaigns. What if someone dies in the first like 30 minutes to an hour?
It hasn't happened yet.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Mostly because our group loves to chat. We love to RP. So even in
Yeah.
these throwaway characters that we may never see again, apart from as side characters if they survive, right?
Yeah.
We can't help ourselves. We're all little drama nerds at heart, and inevitably the first hour is just talking nonsense in character to get a feel
Okay, good.
for the character and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what's the earliest I've had. I tend to structure my sessions so that the fights come later on in the session anyway, and I'm
Mm.
wondering if that's me subconsciously protecting myself
Oh
from
yeah.
just murdering a PC in the first like 10 minutes of a session.
Yeah. Right, and that's I mean, yeah, that'd be terrible as like a just a player like, I mean, I'm so excited to play D&D tonight. It's like I sat for 3 hours and watched my friends play D&D, and there's so many things you
Yeah.
can do. You can throw them in as like having a backup character, or having something, but like
I think I'd get them to
put
write a character and then I'd just be like, heavens above you open,
yeah,
and
yeah.
a ray of light shines down and physical form takes of this.
Yeah.
Please describe your character.
Yeah, 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 right. Something throw.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess another thing you could take them through like going into hell. So
Yeah.
like you literally you could just put a little side quest. That would be another. Yeah, I
That's
mean
fun
there's
too.
solutions. There's always solutions. I guess that's the point. Is like if something bad happens, it's always on the spot. Something bad is always going to happen. Let me rephrase.
Yes.
So you just have to be able to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And again, this is almost entirely off book because nowhere in the books is it like, how
Oh
do you
yeah.
deal with accidentally TPKing in the first 5 minutes of your session because you didn't
Yeah.
read the stats properly?
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, and you use VTTs, right?
Mhm.
So do you like railroad's not the right word, but like I guess we're all doing this, right? Like I think they're called quantum ogres, where it's like you went into this cave instead of that
Yeah.
cave. So it's weird that that ogre was here instead of where I
My
originally wrote them.
so Life again.
Mhm.
He shared the image where it's like a cow, and then there's like a path that splits into two and it ends up at the same place.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think
Right.
that's what we all do as DMs in my
Yeah.
group. We're not railroading because we've got we've all got like extra maps built in case someone wants to do something else. We've got
Mhm.
characters written all over the cities and towns that we've kind of built and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So there's plenty of space to go and do things. But uh it's like a caterpillar almost. Like you've got the segments of like, this is a small open world.
Yeah.
This is the exit to the next segment
Right.
that you will reach at some point.
Yeah, you have to get here
Yeah.
to move on at some point. Yeah, I think that's how I do it too. Yeah, you're gonna hit a set piece, and I get some people like that's railroading. You're not supposed to do that, but it's like, man, this is how you get really cool
Stories.
things instead of it just being
Yeah.
fighting random. Like you want set
If
pieces.
that's what you want to, if that's what you want to do, if you want to play a giant open sandbox game, then
Uh-huh.
like be my guest. But like I
Yeah.
want to RP and have a
Right.
story told to me, or
Hmm.
help my players go through a story that I have thought of.
Yeah.
Like
It's I
they,
guess the other one's like West Marches campaigns, which
yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard, but yeah, like they're like more of a like a simulator and
Mm.
like a more of a fighting game than like an RP D&D game, which is again the same thing of like there's just so many different games.
There are.
So
You can play so
you
many
know,
games. I ran a campaign that was effectively a West Marches one because there was a month or so where just our group was just, people were out at different times and stuff like that, and I was like, I'm not
mm,
out. I'll run this, and it was like a Monster Hunter inspired campaign. So they
oh
were in a
cool,
world where like magic was a little bit hit and miss,
yeah,
but anything they killed, they could take. They could choose a body part from the big monsters they killed. They take it back,
hmm,
and I custom built them a magic item.
yeah, that's awesome.
One of them had a hat made out of an axe
Yeah,
beak
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff like that. Like they had tendon, they had like the hollow bones of an axe beak turned into poison daggers.
yeah.
Like
Oh, that's so
that's
good.
fine. Like that's sick.
Yeah,
It still got to a point where even though I was telling stories about their individual characters and I had an overarching like concept,
hmm,
it's not fun. It wasn't fun for us
yeah,
to be like, oh, what are we doing this time? Oh, you're gonna go fight this other thing, and no story progression is gonna happen because it
right,
can't, because we're missing one of the key characters.
right.
And
I mean, you're
it's,
grinding at that point,
well,
which is
that's all
like
you're doing,
fine for
right?
video games, but like for D&D, I would say rolling dice, like simulating the combat is not nearly as enjoyable as
Mm.
it's only really fun, I think, when there's this stake
Yeah,
of like realism and the stake of like trying to tell a story. That's
yeah,
when it's the fighting
100%.
matters.
So yeah, I tried the West Marches thing and it wasn't fun, which is weird because the dungeon crawl I'm running is fun for the players
Hmm.
and it is fun for me. But that's
Right.
because even within this dungeon crawl, there's I've given them a little bit of story, and I've still added to this shared world that we're running and stuff, so it has like relevance.
Yeah, right.
And also, I'm gonna throw like spoilers, I guess, if you're one of the players in the thing.
Cut off the video right now.
Just gone. That's the end of the video. They will at some point be fighting a bunch of cool high-level undead, because I can do that, and also a mutated T-Rex I've put in one of the rooms as well, because I can, because it doesn't have to make sense.
Right, exactly. That's
sick. I've thrown them into a pocket dimension, which is my... So, I think we were talking about this in a group. I think a lot of DMs end up with a thing that reoccurs in a lot of the things, and my thing is pocket dimensions.
That's so
I love
funny.
just being like, what if nothing had to make sense for a little bit? That would be fun, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And it's just because I can't be bothered to read. I was gonna finish that. Right. That is the end of the sentence.
Period.
I just can't be bothered to read.
That's so funny.
Pocket dimension.
Yeah. The pocket dimension is genius. Yeah. We're in this multiverse, and here you are, and this is how this makes sense to me. So enjoy.
Surprise, Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah, like, that's so funny.
Being ridden by a Death Knight.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
I mean, it's sweet. And again, if you're just there to like have that fun experience, that's gonna be so great. I like that, man. That's a good idea. I'm gonna pocket dimensions. I'm gonna start adding that to my game.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
I have put pocket dimensions in the last 3 or 4 of my campaigns, and the one that I didn't put one in, my players pointed out. So they ended up getting swallowed by an enormous Lenorm, one that was like larger than a mountain kind of scale. And there was a city within its stomach of vampires that had formed a symbiosis with the Lenorm, where they'd feed body parts to it, and they'd drink its blood to sustain all of the creatures involved. Super happy with the concept. I explained this to my wife, and she was just like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Good question.
No, that's genius. I mean, this is grounded in reality, okay?
That's how that would work.
Yeah, this is nature.
One of my players was like, "That was basically a pocket dimension." I was like, "No, it wasn't."
Yeah.
Like sulking. Shut up.
It might have been.
Shut up.
Yeah. Right. Listen, you like what you like, okay? Everybody's alike. Pocket dimensions, okay? They're cool.
Oh, cool.
What do you want from me? That's great, dude.
Do you think it matters that the inspiration for the game is D&D, but what you end up playing is just like Kevin's D&D? That's basically what you're playing by the end of it, right? Do you think that matters at all?
No, because who cares? Like, also, who cares that I'm playing D&D at all? Like, so I think that's like the bigger question of like, when it comes to, I think discourse online is fun, and I think that's what people like to do. And I don't think any of it has really any impact on what you're doing when you're playing with your friends. Like, if I go and hang out with my friends, or we go to a bar, are people like, did you know you're not going to the bar, right? The way to drink is you have to, it's like, I'm just doing what I'm doing. Yeah, right. Like, it's just, let people do what they're going to do, and who cares? Like, so I don't think anybody, I think it's better that it's more diverse. And I think if we were only doing a more homogenized thing, that's when stuff like Wizard of the Coast, with this OGL crisis, has a bigger impact. But like, and the biggest problem with the OGL was that it impacts third-party creators who are people that we care about and want to do. But if you take away all of that, I already have everything I need to play D&D. I don't need a single another piece of paper or product to play. It's like completely free, and so I don't think having a homogenized D&D, what isn't good. I'm sure there's a reason out there, but it's just not for me. Like, I'm sure people who want to go like play at a local game store and are just trying to like
league and stuff, right? Like that.
Yeah, right. Which is, for those people that's perfect. And then guess what? They can still set their own rules. They can have their local game stores, Adventure League, or I'm not well versed enough in Adventure League to be able to say what's right or wrong, but
vaguely aware of it.
Right.
Doesn't seem like my kind of D&D.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not for me. And so, no, I don't think anybody cares. If you tell me the number of times someone has told me about their D&D campaign, I'm like, you and I are playing so differently. Like, I don't even know, like, we just have different experience. If you came to my table or I went to yours, I'd be like, I have to relearn like a lot of stuff. That's great. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, awesome. If I ever get to play with you, I get a new experience. Like, uh, so yeah, I don't think it matters. And I think again, it's just people like discourse, man. Nothing's more fun than being able to say your opinion's right and getting people to agree with you. And then other people are like, no, my opinion's right. And you're stupid. And then here we are, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, how do you feel, right? Like, do you feel that it matters what someone thinks you're doing?
No, I don't think it matters because I'm 36 and
Yeah.
I'm too tired and old to worry. I'm not old, but like I'm way too old to be worried about that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I'm a grown adult.
Yeah, you're right.
I have real life actual problems, like
Yeah.
one of my cats scattered poo across the hallway this morning because
Right.
of course they did. That's the stuff I have to worry about.
Exactly.
I'm not worried about which version of D&D I'm playing.
No, I mean it's the same with like Magic, right? We talked about Magic a little earlier. People with the ban list for Commander, it's like, guess what? You can still play those cards, man, and you can play proxies, and you can make up your own cards. There's no rules. It's amazing.
Yeah, I get why that was upsetting to specific people. I fully understand.
But gameplay wise, it has no impact on how me with my friends play. And Rule 0 exists, you know. So like, yeah, great. You can do whatever. So I think the same thing applies to D&D.
Yeah,
we're just session 0 is Rule 0 for Magic,
session
right? Like
0 is where you're like,
here's my parameters.
I've never read a book in my life.
Yeah. Right. I'd get another hard period. Yeah. I've never read a book in my life. So you guys want to hang out or what's going on? Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, man. I think just do what you want, man. Let people do what they want. And you can disagree. And I think also that's probably a bigger form of where arguments happen is that people think that what they're doing is what someone else is doing. So when they say like, don't do X, Y, or Z, they think it applies to how they're doing it. And they're upset that they're getting told to not do it the way they like to do it. But it's like, you're just doing something different. Like,
it's about inspiration. To me, it's about inspiration, right? Like if you're watching something and you disagree with the rules, that's fine. But like maybe you'll find a kernel of something within that where you're like, that's sick. I had a comment on a short I did about your barbarian's rage doesn't have to be like loud and angry. It can be quiet and focused. It can be like a different person taking over. It could be a bunch of things. And someone commented and was like, or you could just do it like it normally is. And I'm like, I'm not saying you can't. I'm not taking your toys away from you.
Right.
Stop being weird. I'm just trying to give like inspiration to people who are like, I've been 3 barbarians. They all got real angry. Like, how else can I do this? Because sometimes you love the class, but you don't love the flavor, right?
Right. Well, and it literally what you told him was, this is an option. You can do it how you want. You didn't say don't do it the other way.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not in
that
charge
guy just
of you. I'm not in charge of you. I'm not your DM.
Yeah.
If I was, your character would be on the verge of death. You'd know.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. He won't live long enough for it to matter. Okay.
They'd be put in a pocket dimension, all right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Get over here. That's dude. It respond to all the negative comments with "I'm putting you in a pocket dimension." Yeah. Hands and put them to the side. It's good strategy.
That's a pro strat, 100%.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, what my wife, she plays a barbarian and she plays a gnome, and whenever she goes into rage, she just smiles and giggles. And so it's just like this like big wide open. Yeah, that's like it's terrifying. But it's a perfect rage, you know?
Yeah.
It's unique and it's her style, and that's great. I love it. You know,
so good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Stealing that at some point. That's so good.
Please. Steal like everything.
Worryingly happy rage.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The eyes are just so wide, just looking at you, just like, and you're like, oh, this person
is not good.
yeah, that person's in trouble. Something's wrong with their brain. Yeah, dude, I love that. Again, we talked about it. Have your character be unique. Don't follow the rules. Don't follow the rules. Don't care how other people play. Do whatever you want. You know, be happy, be open, try new things.
Okay.
Yeah, eat your vegetables.
Eat vegetables.
You know, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. I think that's
I don't think there's any more to say about life.
This is the first episode of this, so obviously with the creative spark, we've got the awkward wave. What should be the sign off of this?
Oh, dude,
make it worse.
To make it worse?
Please don't make it worse.
Oh, okay.
I nervously started chewing on my own hand.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. The awkward wave is classic. I don't know what's
do
because this is the
finger
first one, right?
It's the
Oh,
first
finger guns are very
Can we
good.
do
A
finger
little
guns?
hit
Should we
them
do
and then
that?
we're out. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we can do finger guns. Finger
All right.
guns for all. I'm
Uh,
happy to be a part of this to be able to help set the precedent.
I'm honored
now-
that you would take time out to be a part of this as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's always good time chatting.
Yeah, finger guns. Ready?
Yeah, all right.
I should have blown. Oh.